Should you take a melatonin supplement to help you sleep better? Apparently, a lot of people think so. Up to 1/3 of the U.S. population takes a supplement to help them get their Z's. Let's face it, sleeping is hard and melatonin levels tend to drop off as we age. But does it work? How much should you take and when? And what about side effects and drug interactions? Stay tuned to learn the answers to all of these questions and more about melatonin supplements and sleep. There's a lot of noise in healthcare and you are too busy for fads. I'm Dr. Vickie and this is Healthy Looks Great on You, a lifestyle medicine podcast, life-tested, doctor-approved. If you're popping melatonin like it's a magical sleep vitamin, this episode might be your wake-up call. Like I said, a lot of people use melatonin supplements, but they often use the wrong dose for the wrong reasons and at the wrong time. First of all, it does work, but we're going to tease out how it works and how it doesn't. And did you know that melatonin supplements are over the counter in the United States and Canada? But in the United Kingdom, you need a prescription. So that tells me that you need at least some basic information before you decide to pick up a bottle and take a pill and figure out the right dose for you. And let me make a distinction between endogenous melatonin and exogenous melatonin. Endogenous refers to what your body makes to regulate your internal clock. Exogenous melatonin refers to supplements that are sold in a bottle. Let's go to mini medical school right away today because it feels like we're already there anyway. Melatonin is the sleep hormone. It sounds a lot like melanin, but that's totally different, and I have seen people confuse the two. Melanin is the pigment in your skin, and melatonin is a hormone that's secreted in your brain, specifically in the pineal gland. But they are both affected by sunlight. In fact, your circadian rhythm or your internal sleep-wake cycle corresponds to the Earth's sleep-wake cycle. Sunshine in the morning and darkness at night for most people. Of course, if you do shift work, which many people in healthcare do, then you very well may be awake when the rest of the world is sleeping. Been there, done that. This old OB doc knows firsthand about staying up and working at night. But today, let's just talk about normal people. And hey, normal's just a setting on the dryer anyway, so there's that. But here's what happens. Normally, as the sun goes down, your pineal gland turns on the melatonin faucet. Levels go up about 2 hours before bedtime. The influence of darkness keeps it secreting all night long. Bright light exposure cranks the valve shut and levels drop off in the morning. These chemical changes in your body are designed to make you relax and get sleepy in the evening, but they aren't going to conk you out, and neither is a supplement. Melatonin acts more like a messenger, like a boss coming in at the end of a shift and telling everyone it's time to start wrapping up. Well, actually, not everyone, but the hypothalamus. That's the area of the brain that responds to this message by chilling out. For real, it sedates mood and cools your core body temperature and lowers blood pressure. None of that puts you to sleep, but it prepares both your body and your mind for sleep. And retinal activity in the eyes slows down too. Conversely, when the light switch is turned on in the morning, it spikes. All of this works best on a regularly timed schedule of light exposure, bedtime, and wake time. Kind of like a sprinkler system that you turn on to keep your yard green in the summer, you want that grass to be watered with the right amount of water at regular intervals. So following a regular schedule helps your body ramp up and dampen melatonin secretion at the appropriate times in a well-coordinated fashion to promote healthy, natural sleep. Plus, there are no side effects and no drug interactions like there can be with exogenous melatonin supplements. But here's the deal. Melatonin doesn't just affect sleep. It also has a huge impact on the immune system. It's fascinating, really. Melatonin triggers the manufacture of cytokines while we are sleeping. Cytokines are pro-inflammatory chemicals that are important for proper immune function, but they can get way out of whack in autoimmune diseases. And that is why it is recommended that people who have autoimmune diseases, like me, do not take a melatonin supplement. I mean, we're already prone to inflammation, and more certainly isn't good. Other people who should not use melatonin are those with depression, seizure disorders, or who are pregnant or breastfeeding. And if you have hypertension, melatonin may interfere with your medications and cause increased blood pressure. Also, if you have diabetes, it can raise your blood sugar. Do not use melatonin without discussing with your healthcare provider if you are taking any kind of blood thinner because of an increased risk of bleeding. It can also interact with benzodiazepines like Valium or Xanax. But all of that aside, melatonin supplements are considered generally safe to use. That's the language for supplements because you need to understand that the supplement industry is not regulated by the FDA in the same way as pharmaceutical drugs. What that means for you is that the manufacturing process is not standardized to ensure the exact amount of ingredients, and supplements can be sold without rigorous scientific evidence that they work. On the other hand, that doesn't mean they don't work. But in 2020, the American Academy of Sleep Medicine published a study that showed, and I quote, results show that melatonin content did not meet within a 10% margin of the label claim in more than 71% of supplements, with the actual content ranging from 83% less to 478% more than the concentration declared on the label. The study also found that lot-to-lot variability within a particular product varied by as much as 465%. So that's a lot. By the way, I added that last sentence. The study didn't say that's a lot, but I'll put a link to this article in the show notes so you can read the entirety of it. But let's get to the bottom line. Do melatonin supplements help you sleep? Like most things, that depends. It may help you fall asleep faster, but it doesn't really help you stay asleep longer and get into those deep, restorative stages of sleep. However, because melatonin is more of a sleep phase shifter rather than a true sleeping medication, it does help with jet lag. And I have an entire episode on jet lag. Just go to my website, www.healthylooksgreatonyou.com, and type jet lag into the search bar, especially if you've got a trip planned and you're traveling across time zones. But if you want a super quick answer, a couple of days before you get your passport stamped, start taking melatonin 2 hours before bedtime at your destination. Now, melatonin supplements are only sedating in about 10% of the population, so in 90% of people, it's not going to make you sleepy, but it might start sending signals to your brain it's time to wind down. More about timing and dosages in a minute, but for the same reasons it works for jet lag, melatonin is likely to help if you have trouble going to sleep at the normal time. Now that would be around 9 p.m. for me, but remember, I already told you what normal is. That's right, it's a setting on the dryer. Okay, great, but let's talk about side effects. Most common are headache, dizziness, nausea, daytime drowsiness, that's that 10% who feel sedation with exogenous melatonin supplements. Now, if melatonin was a pharmaceutical medication, the label would also tell you may cause stomach cramps, diarrhea, constipation, decreased appetite, bedwetting, confusion, increased risk of falls, tremor, mental dullness, mood swings, irritability, anxiety, and depression. Of course, the flip side is that not sleeping also causes many of those things, just maybe not the bedwetting. Melatonin supplements may also cause vivid dreams or even nightmares. But if it works for you, it's considered generally safe and it's not addictive. But you should try to stop taking it after a month or two and see how you sleep without it. And even though it's not addictive, sometimes you'll relapse just because you've eliminated a step from your bedtime routine. Everything you do in your bedtime routine also sends a signal to your brain that it's time to start getting ready for bed. It's a powerful thing. Now, if you know me at all, you know I prefer lifestyle interventions that you can do for a lifetime rather than supplements. In fact, I created a free tip sheet just for you to help you start sleeping better tonight. I put a link in the show notes, but you can also go to my website, healthylooksgreatonyou.com, and sign up for 3 simple strategies to start sleeping better tonight. There are 0 side effects, and I predict you'll find it helpful to maximize your body's endogenous melatonin. But if you do take a supplement, be sure you're taking the right dose at the right time. A common mistake people make is taking it right before bedtime. And at the very beginning, I told you, melatonin doesn't conk you out. It just tells your brain to start getting prepared to sleep, which you can also do with a solid wind-down routine and timed light exposure. So you do need to take melatonin supplements a couple of hours before bedtime, whether that's bedtime at home or bedtime in your upcoming destination to help with jet lag. You can also start adjusting your schedule at home before your trip to help with jet lag too. But you knew I'd say that, right? Look, under normal, setting on the dryer, circumstances, your body produces all the melatonin you need. But taking an appropriate dose is considered generally safe, so let's rewind and spend a minute in pharmacology class. Can I be real for a minute? I hated that class in medical school. Put me right to sleep better than a supplement. But this is super important because a lot of people take too high of a dose. If you shop the supplement aisle, the most common doses you'll see are 3 to 10 milligrams. But you can find doses from 0.1 milligram to 10 milligrams, and whoa, that's 100-fold difference. So how are you going to know what dose to take? Well, start low and go slow. Most adults respond to a dose as little as 0.3 milligrams, and 1 milligram is usually plenty. But speaking of adults, I would not recommend using melatonin in kids at all without talking to your pediatrician. At the end of the day, which is the time when you want to sleep, focus on all of the things you can control regarding your sleep. And yes, melatonin supplements might help you fall asleep faster by an average of, are you still with me? Because this is really important and I want you to hear it. Melatonin supplements help you fall asleep on average 7 to 12 minutes earlier, which is about half of most prescription sleeping medications. If you're interested in information about prescription sleeping medications, check out my episode on pills and potions. If you're struggling to sleep and you've decided you want to try taking melatonin, just make sure you aren't making the common mistakes of taking it right when you want to fall asleep, or taking too much and getting side effects, or using it to treat sleeplessness without addressing the root causes. And again, if you want to look at root causes, I have lots of information and resources for you. Get started by going to my website right now. What if I told you that everything you're doing to sleep better at night is keeping you awake? Do you wish that you could sleep better without medications and without supplements? I have some great news. I have a free live masterclass coming up called Everything You're Doing to Sleep Better at Night is Keeping You Awake. This is a game changer to change the way that you think about sleep to help you sleep better. I have saved you a seat. You have 3 options, September 8th, 10th, or 13th. This event is completely free, but registration is required. And if you show up live, I have a bonus for you. I have a collection of recipes that help you sleep. So join today, and I will see you in the free live masterclass. Melatonin works best to reset your internal clock when your sleep timing is off. And we could all use a little reset from time to time because restorative sleep is crucial for good health. And healthy looks great on you. The information contained in this podcast is for educational purposes only and is not considered to be a substitute for medical advice. You should continue to follow up with your physician or healthcare provider and take medication as prescribed. Though the information in this podcast is evidence-based, new research may develop and recommendations may change.